Thanks, Dan. Hey, guys. Um, I am here to talk about some cost-efficient and innovative ways to drive game discovery that we've been focusing on at our startup. My name is Rakesh Raju. I'm one of the founders of TreSensa. And like I said, I'm going to be focusing on game discovery as it pertains to mobile game marketing as part of like a larger marketing solution. And so just to get on the same page about terminology, what we're talking about is getting high quality marketing, a lot of scale, and essentially positive ROI, right? That's what everybody wants out of their mobile game marketing. So our startup is essentially a mobile engagement company. We're 3 years old, based in New York City. And it's a company founded by veterans from both ad tech space, which New York is very rich with, and people from the games industry. And just to give some more context, we work with game studios, and that includes HTML5 game developers who are sort of creating web games, as well as studios who are building native games for the app stores. And so we're at this interesting cross-section where we get to see the pain points of the different groups, and in a way, kind of creating solutions to grow the whole ecosystem. So the other people we work with are content publishers, so that we're able to achieve scale for the developers that we work with. And the last piece is we work with brands, essentially mobile. Like I said, we're a mobile engagement company first. So for us, for brands, mobile engagement is super important, and one of the brands that we work with are game brands. So just a real snapshot, we work with 100+ developers, 100+ publishers, and a footprint of 30 million, and it's growing. But I think even in this early stage, we're able to see some interesting trends, and it's worth, I think, sharing with the community, the larger mobile game development community, to take advantage of. So that's a little bit about us. Now what I'd like to do is essentially just frame mobile game marketing in a really quick, high-level way. This is obviously a gigantic topic, and I'm not really covering all of it, but at a high level, essentially, we have a sense of what is ideal. I think the last talk did a really good job of explaining how things were before. Even just a few years ago, people were able to find your games pretty easily. There were a lot of people, much less than today, but a pretty big audience looking for relatively limited amount of content. So that was ideal, right? Your target audience was able to find your game easily. They were able to try and buy your game easily, right? That was easy for people to do. There was very low friction and therefore relatively low marketing costs. Okay, cool, this works. So essentially, you got what you wanted, like pretty good quality of users, a lot of pretty decent scale, and really no upfront costs, right? But and that can happen in the early days of any platform. But then reality catches up, and then pretty much things get crowded out, and we have something like this, right? A very crowded app store. This is just Apple, but it's pretty insane to think of, like, in just a few years how much it's grown. So this has radically changed, and naturally marketing techniques are changing all the time. Part of the side effect, one of the side effects of this is obviously the quality of users is getting harder and harder to get good quality users, right? And there's lots of solutions out there, and essentially they're like, some of them are like incentivized in one form or another, and so you're not really sure what the quality of it is, or even if it's really targeted to what you want. And on top of that, it's also expensive. It's getting more and more expensive. These are things I don't have to tell any of you about. You're living this pain every day, right? And for example, this is the insane CPI rate chart, which we're seeing has grown like astronomically in the last few years. So all of this also results in a system that is broken for users, for the gamers. It essentially makes it hard to find stuff that you actually like unless it's super duper heavily marketed by really deep pockets. And it's also difficult to, it's also broken for studios because, for the reasons mentioned before. So it's not just for the audience, for the studios too. You end up, ultimately like forcing people to install a game that they may not even like, and you're still paying for it. So there's an underlying problem. I mean, the industry as a whole is growing like crazy, in every possible metric, right? Whether it's users or revenues, it's all just going up. But discovery is simply not keeping up, and we also know the reasons for some of this. It's this paradox of how the App Store is structured, right? The structure is still the same. Still have featured games and charts within this closed system. Still the same fee structure. So these are not fun conditions in which to be marketing. People are always trying to like work around it, and then they get shut down, and they keep evolving. So it's a progressively tougher environment. And of course, there are exceptions. We all see them once in a while, but pretty much they're all one-hit wonders, right? So so we've been trying to think of how do we de-risk this for the studios, and how do we make it what can we do to make it better for the end users? And the more we talk to game studios, it's clear that studios just have to do something creative and innovative to market their games, and they do. They're always talking to new solution providers. The expo floor here is full of them, and in every games conference, you're going to see more of those exhibitors than game tools or anything like that, right? So let's take a brief look at sort of the lay of the land. If you just mapped all the possible solutions for marketing in some kind of graph, they roughly would fall somewhere in this, in this coordinate system, right? Either on the left is the really low engagement, on the right is really good engagement, which relates to the quality of your users that you get, and then you have reach. It's another dimension. Some solutions have very small scale, and other ones have larger scale, but they may not have the same quality, so on and so forth. And if I just started filling this up, it would just be like a black page full of solutions. But ideally, you want something that's in that spot, right? That's also not expensive, because you have Facebook, and Facebook has its own problems. If you're worried about, if you're on a big studio, you've got its own set of issues. But if you're a small studio, the obvious problem is price. So how do you get something? So we get something that's in the highly engaging, high quality, high scale. That's also not as much more cost effective. So we started looking more at these solutions that offered a preview of the game, or the game as an ad type of thing. There've been solutions tried in the past. People have tried streaming the game. People have tried like native solutions. None of those seem to work that well, or some of them don't even exist anymore. They've come and they've gone. So we really gravitated towards HTML5 for so many reasons that I'll get into. In fact, and so based on that, we came up with a solution. So what I'll do is just show a little video of one of the games we did that for. We applied our solution to a game called Daily Celebrity Crosswords. It's a top-ranking crossword game in the U.S. And they have like 1 million downloads, and they're trying to go up to the next level with 1 million more. So they're looking for newer solutions. So we help them with this. So we just internally call it true user acquisition. Essentially, we're able to make an HTML5 version of the game and put it where people find regular content. You're able to play the game. It's a mini version of the game. It's like a light, super light version of the game. In this case, they play like one puzzle. The game has like a lot of puzzles which are available through in-app purchases. And then the actual game is promoted from within the light version of the game. And for this studio, this is like magic because it converts extremely well. The quality of the users that they get is undoubtedly high quality, right? Because they've actually engaged with your content, they got excited about it, and they are downloading your game. So, in a nutshell, that's the solution we've come up with. I just showed that. First, we create an optimized, HTML5 demo, a light version of the game, or even it could be a mini game that's based on the theme of your game. It could be like the tutorial level. It could be even a similar game, and all they do, these are marketing games, right? So the only goal is to get people excited about your game, so much so that they go and download the full version. So we create the game. In fact, if you go here, you'll see that game that we just did. It's just a URL. So once the game is ready, then what? The second part is getting it out in front of the right people, targeted. So like I said earlier, we work with a lot of publishers of content. By publishers, I don't mean game publishers, like content publishers, online content publishers. So we're able to pick and select. We have a system where we can pick and select where to publish the game, so that the results are optimal. And then we get the end user to find the content just like they did when they were reading Radar Online or some other online content, and play the demo. And within the game, there's a way to promote the full version. And this is dynamic, so it's plugged into your analytics, your A/B testing, all the stuff that you use for actual game design. You can use it for this highly dynamic marketing game, essentially, and adjust. You may find people are responding better to. It's different, right? There's no like one size fits all for every game, every studio. So you'll find out in real time, and you can adjust stuff in real time too, and essentially optimized. So the results so far, it's still very early stages. We're scaling it up, but the quality is really good. I mean, it's in the Facebook kind of quality range. So the studio is pretty happy with this and wants to continue working with us. In fact, we have a lot of studios excited to work with us. We just, we're still growing out our platform. But it's a very simple concept. So this is all possible because of this thing called the mobile web. So I'm going to take a step back and really tell you what we found. Essentially, when we looked at it and realized that mobile web is it's a massive channel, but it's also underutilized. It's there, it's huge. To give you an idea, this is how massive it is. If you put all mobile web, essentially the share of time spent on mobile devices, it's really only second to Facebook. I mean, that's not just one site, of course. And it's almost the same. So it's really a big channel, and we're hope that there are going to be more solutions that help game developers utilizing these channels, right? So it's massive. It's also very powerful. I mean, a lot of us are already familiar with HTML5 games and whatnot, but for those who aren't, the browser runtime, the mobile web runtime, has been making amazing progress every year, and it's certainly perfectly suited for making these promo games. I'll just show you a little clip of some HTML5 games that some of our studios have made, just to give you a sense of what's possible in case you're not familiar with this genre. So these are 2D games, really high frame rates. Certainly, there's a whole industry of actually full-size games in HTML5. But we've had great luck utilizing them for brands. You can see some consumer brands, but also game brands. Right, so these are all games that you can actually run right in your mobile browser right now. Shouldn't be a surprise to most people here, but thought I'd cover that. So there's this massive platform, and it's super powerful, so why isn't it being used is kind of what we were thinking, and that's where we've gone. You know, the improvements on the HTML5 side, whether it's hardware, operating system, the browser, the tools, and also the talent is getting better all the time. So that's what leads us to think it's underutilized. So cool, it's a very technically promising platform, but how does it work at scale? How do we get scale out of this? How do we actually make it happen? In our case, what we have like there are two aspects to this. One is a pure technology aspect, and the other one is more of a business solution. I'll explain what we do on both fronts, right? So first of all, these games are mobile web optimized. And by mobile web optimized, I don't just mean that they perform well. They're really optimized to work across a large variety of devices, across all kinds of fragmentation, specific use cases, and so forth. And for that, it's getting easier and easier. There are off-the-shelf tools to do that, game engines, whatnot. Pretty soon, we expect tools like Unity and Adobe to have output in this form. So maybe you won't use it for the full game, but you could certainly very easily crank out a mobile-optimized HTML5 game. The second part is, of course, getting these optimized for distribution. Right? There are lots of distribution endpoints. Even that part is pretty fragmented. And so we have to make sure we've got the right distribution technology, the right integrations, whatnot. But once that's done, and once we make sure then essentially we get content that's compatible with content feeds. The web is like full of all this content coming down in feeds, and we can be compatible and plug right into those. And that's exactly what we've done in many integrations. I think the example that you saw of Radar, the games on Radar Online, was exactly that. Essentially, the company Radar Online had to do nothing. We plugged into their feed, and whenever we have a new game that we want to promote, it just like pops up, and their users play it. So this can be done very, very dynamically. The other amazing thing that we can do is, since it's ultimately pretty much HTML5 creative in a way, if you think of it that way, you can make it compatible with all this ad serving technology as well. So that's like a really great way to get a lot of scale for these games. And on mobile, you don't care where you're seeing it. It just has to function really, really well for your user experience. So that's how we drive discovery at scale. The content is so flexible. It ends up in messenger apps. It ends up in media properties. Obviously, game portals on mobile, and last but not least, as standard ad placements. So this is the way we're approaching how to drive scale, and basically the technology supports it. On the other hand, we have to do these business integrations to make this work. Why would content publishers want this? Obviously, in some cases, games are their content, and these games are actually light games. So for sites, for publishers like game portals, it's obvious, it's perfect. They know how to monetize it anyway. But for other publishers, mainstream publishers or whatever, if you want this game in their content feed, you want them to promote it, you have to kind of create a bit of a revenue opportunity for them. So once we put all these pieces together, essentially you start to get a solution that really solves some of the pain points we talked. So just to recap, you've got dynamic content, you've got something that's open web based, right? And it's pretty cost effective. We're able to do targeting. The whole thing is non-incentivized, so that raises the quality of the end users, right? And like a total free bonus side effect, even if you don't convert a user, you're just for free raising the awareness of your brand, of your game brand. So this is, I think, a pretty awesome solution for small studios, but it also works for large studios who are constantly looking for more scale. For them, budgets may not be as much of a problem. So it kind of works across the entire spectrum, I think. And the way it works and what we've been able to essentially do to make what we have made happen is create a revenue opportunity for the online content publishers on one side, and by doing that, creating a de-risked solution for studios, essentially getting everybody in on the game, working with their formats, and by that achieving our goals, which we set out earlier, is essentially quality, scale, and cost effectiveness. So I think I think this is a very promising technology, and I'd be very curious to see how much it grows over the next year. And I hope some of the studios, small and large, use this mobile web channel to find users and help get their games discovered. That's it. Thanks.